Have you been thinking about what you might do for your tablescape for Easter this year? I have. Hi, my name is Leslie and welcome to Happy Tuesday, where we do crafts and DIYs and home decor and more. Today I have for you 5 super cute ideas that'll transition your table from Easter into spring. Now if you stick around to the very end, I'll have a hint on one of next week's projects. So let's get started. Now get ready for a quick view of my tablescape, and let's get started with project number 1. Look at these candlesticks, aren't they cute? So I just took 2 glass candlesticks from the Dollar Tree and then 4 round wood pieces that I bought at Hobby Lobby. They were 69 cents a piece or 65 cents a piece. And we are going to glue 1 wood piece. Now you can use any kind of super glue or E6000 or any kind of cement like that to attach the wood piece onto the glass. I did wipe it all down with some alcohol before I put the glue on and made sure it was clean. Now I bought these wood eggs last year at Michael's when they were on clearance. So I think they were 90% off when I found them. They still have them this year. I believe they're 40% off right now. And I'm going to take a little bit of that Gorilla Super Glue and a little bit of hot glue and stack 3 on one candlestick and 2 on the other. And then I will put on the second round wood piece, and that'll be the top of my candle. The hardest part about gluing this is, of course, keeping everything straight up and down, and I did a fairly decent job of it. And once I've gotten everything glued on, then I let them sit for about 24 hours before I painted them so that everything was nice and tight and dry and ready to be moved around. Then I just took them outside and gave them a couple quick coats of some Rust-Oleum white flat paint. Once I brought them inside, I just sanded down a few of the little rough edges, and then I decided they were a little too stark white for me. So I took some of this truffle color by Waverly and I watered it down a little bit and brushed it on and then wiped it off, mostly kind of tap dried it off, and that gave it just enough rustic-ish look to go with my table. Now if you wanted, you could actually paint each of the eggs a different color. Instead of using the wood eggs, you could probably get away with plastic eggs. If you use battery operated candles, they're not very heavy. Now, if you use actual real candles, you probably want something a little bit more sturdy than plastic eggs. So I get all that on and wiped off, and here we are, all complete. Super simple and super cute and high-end looking. And here's how they look on my table. I just think they look adorable, and I love how they pull the whole table together and are a nice transition off of that wood. Now here is project number 2. This one is even simpler. So I just bought these 3 bunnies. Now I got them all the same because I want that plate to sit flat on top of them. And this is just a white charger, and I bought all 3 of these items at Hobby Lobby last year on clearance. But I do believe they have all the same items this year as well. So I am just going to place my bunny underneath the charger so that I get an idea of where that lip is. I thought I could just put some glue on there and stick the charger on, but it didn't quite work that way. So I stuck some of that Gorilla Super Glue on the top of the bunny where he sits on that charger, and added a little bit of hot glue to it, and then ended up just placing the bunny on top of the charger instead of upside down, instead of the charger on top of the bunnies. That wasn't working so well. So here I am. After trying it the first way, I'm going to go ahead and add some additional hot glue, and that way the bunnies stick enough that I can get it flipped over and get everything stabilized. And that's all there is to this project. Super, super simple. And it looks so cute on my table. So check this out. Made a little batch of cookies and added a couple of little birds, and isn't it just adorable?
If you made it this far in the video, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and click the bell so that you'll be notified every time I upload a video. Give it a thumbs up and comment the word of the day below, which today is bunnies.
And that'll bring us to project number 3. Now, I actually got my inspiration for this piece from a couple of different places, which I'll show you at the end. Now, you can either use the shower curtain rods from Dollar Tree. You can get 12 in that pack, I believe it is, for $1.25. Or you can use wood rings. I chose to use wood rings. And then I bought this thicker paper wrapped wire because I thought it looked more like rattan type of material. Here it is in comparison to the paper wrapped wire that I've been using. Now, I use about a yard, maybe just a little over a yard of this material to wrap around the wooden ring, and I am going to wrap it almost all the way around, but leaving some room and some material to attach the bunny ears that I'll make in a minute. Now I'm going to trim this off with my little mini wire cutters that I bought from Harbor Freight. And I'm going to wrap it around this shower curtain ring just so you can kind of get an idea. It wraps the same as the wooden ring. But you're just going to wrap it around. And that's why I liked using the paper wrapped wire, because then it just stays put. And you're going to wrap it and pull it through and wrap it and pull it through until you have it all the way wrapped around. I did kind of fold it over itself a little bit here on this first wrap just so that it doesn't show the end. And I am going to make sure that it's wrapped snug up to itself so that the entire wood ring is covered and you're not seeing any of the wood behind. So we're just gonna wrap this up, and once we get close to the end, then we will stop and work on the ears. And here we are getting to the end. Again, you just want to kind of push all those pieces together so that they fit snugly. And once you've got that all done, you're going to measure another piece off. I would say about, well, big enough to make 2 bunny ears and have a little bit to connect. Probably 6 or 8 inches, I'm guessing. And then we will just wrap those together so that it stays as one piece, and you can see the 2 bunny ears. And then we're going to cut another piece about 18 inches long, and we will start weaving our bunny ears. Now I just used my little pliers that I bought from Harbor Freight, and just make sure that those wires are really tight where the connections are, and then add a little dab of hot glue. Anytime that paper came off the wire, then I hot glued it a little bit. But we're just going to get that set aside and measure off, like I said, about 18 inches. And we are going to fold it over on the back side. So you'll kind of weave it in the one side, fold it over the back side, and then you're going to take that wire that's now on the behind, and you're going to move it forward to inside. I'm not doing a very good job explaining this. Just watch what I'm doing. So we're going to weave it back and forth, and it's going to go over and under the bunny ears. There we go. So you went over the right side of the bunny ear and then under the left side. And now we're going to go over the left side of the bunny ear and under the right side. And we'll just kind of weave that back and forth, and I'm going to let you see how that all goes. Weave that back and forth to get that weaved look until we get all the way to the top of the bunny ear, and then I'll show you how we'll finish that off. So here we are again, just a little bit more visual explanation. So we're just going to take the end and weave it in so that it lays over one side of the bunny ear and under the other, and then turn it around and weave it in until you, and back and forth until you get it over and under all the way up the top of the ear. And here we are at the top, and you're just going to kind of slide down the weave that you've made and make a little bit of room at the top so that it's nice and snug up there, and then you'll push that through. Now when you get to that final little piece, I actually guesstimated, measured this one pretty close. You're going to take your pliers and you're going to bend that wire and kind of push that wire through, and it's separated just enough from the paper that I can just get the wire through and kind of clip that. And then I'm going to take a little bit of hot glue and push the paper over so that it lands on top. Now once you've done that to both sides, here we are going to connect our bunny ears. I'm going to take that leftover piece that we didn't finish, and we are going to wrap it over top of the piece that's between the two bunny ears. And I wrapped it over twice, kind of making it snug over there, and making sure that all the pieces are together. Now I had a little bit of wire popping out there, so I'm just going to snip it off and make sure that it's flush to the top of the bunny ear. And then I'm going to wrap it around a second time, and then we'll pull the leftover to the right of that bunny ear and wrap it around. Now this part I guesstimated a little short, so I'm going to get this all snug in there and tight, and I'm going to make sure that the wire is kind of snipped off where it's hanging over, and glue that paper piece down so that it stays put. And then we're just going to grab another extra little tiny piece and kind of blend it in. You'll see here in a minute, once I get this little paper piece glued down, I'm going to cut another little piece, and then we're going to make sure all this is snug, because you don't want it coming apart, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to use the paper wrapped wire, because then it's going to be more sturdy and last for more than just the one Easter season. So I'm just going to push this piece with a little bit of hot glue up underneath the edge of those two ears so that you don't see that I've had to add in a little extra, and then we'll wrap it around until it's completely touching the other wire, and then we will kind of glue and snip and kind of tighten that up just a little bit with our pliers and make sure that it's all snug and ready to go. Now I had a little bit of wire peeking through, so I had some of this paper that I just snipped off and wrapped it around, and that way it looks very seamless. With a little bit of hot glue, it kind of like decoupaged over that, and you didn't see the hot glue, and you didn't see the wire, and you couldn't tell that it was pieced together. And here we are, all nice and complete, and this is what it looks like finished, and here's what it looks like with the 4 pieces. So I've got all 4 of mine done, and I'm going to show you how it looks inside the napkin, outside the napkin, how the napkin looks inside it. And I just think that turned out so adorable. Now here it is at Pottery Barn, and you can buy these 4 for $39.50, or you can buy them at Hobby Lobby for $5.49. But the supplies to make more than 12 cost me less than $16. So it ended up being just over $1 a piece. And that brings us to project number 4. I think these little bunny placeholders are so cute and super simple. So I found these styrofoam bunnies at the Dollar Tree, and there's 8 of them in the pack. And then I had bought these floral napkins, which matched my tablescape, lucky me, on clearance last year for about 57 cents. So my 8 table place card holders are super cheap. Now to decoupage these bunnies, first you want to take that second layer off the napkin, and then you want to use lots of Mod Podge to make sure that it gets on there. Now, one of the things about these napkins that worked out great in my favor is that even if you ripped some of the napkin, it was really easy to patch it in there, and it didn't look like a patch because the napkins themselves kind of have that patchwork look to them. And so I just added decoupage, added added Mod Podge, and then tore off some of the napkin, add a little bit more Mod Podge and cut some off, and then added a full coat on top, and then patched in all the pieces that I had either torn or cut too short, and put these little bunnies together. And once you got everything together, you want to make sure and get a good coat of Mod Podge on the outside to seal it all up. And if you don't have Mod Podge, you can easily make something very similar with Elmer's school glue and some water. And so I'm going to finish getting this all Mod Podged, and I'll do all four, and then I will let them dry. I probably let them dry a couple of hours to make sure everything was good and dry and sealed. And then we will get to the place card holder part. Now, as you can see, this one napkin is going to be enough to make four of these bunnies. So moving into the wire, we are going to use some of this galvanized steel wire that I used on a project at Christmas, and just snip off a little piece, probably about 6 inches long. And here are my handy dandy little wire cutters from Harbor Freight, and I am going to use my little pliers and hold on to the end, and then just kind of twirl it around the pliers to give it that place for the place card to sit in, and leave enough at the base for the wire to go into the bunny. Now, because these are styrofoam, that bunny's going to be the perfect place for this. My husband was worried that once I got the place card in there, the bunny wasn't going to be sturdy enough or heavy enough to stand up straight. But he worked just fine, and there goes the little place card holder, and I am going to write my name on this one. Now, when you see them on my tablescape, I actually got my Cricut to hand write all the names that I wanted on there. And here we are, just popping right into that little wire twist, and then the wire just slides right into that styrofoam bunny, and here we are. And look at them all cute on the tablescape, and I just stuck them in a little hovel in my napkin. And that brings us to project number 5. This is my centerpiece. Now, I grabbed a whole bunch of florals that I had in my craft room, and I made that little bird using chipboard and my knife blade on my Cricut. Now, if you want, I can get you that little file that I put together, and I cut out 3 of the chipboard birds and 2 of the wings, and then I glued them all together so that it would be a nice thick piece. Now, I just used a craft glue from Dollar Tree. I think it's Eileen's. And then I took my little clippers, also from Dollar Tree, and clipped that bird nice and together so that it dries really good and flat, and did the same with the wings, and clip those together and set those aside to dry. And while those are drying, I'm going to work on the legs and the base for the bird. So I just took one of my little wooden skewers. I had little pieces left over, and I snipped this piece in half, and then just kind of measured it up against the bird after I evened it out. And I thought that was going to be too tall for that bird, so I snipped his legs down just a little bit more to where I thought it was going to be a good size. And then this is an old piece of paint stir stick that I snipped off, again using those same wire cutters from Harbor Freight, and I'm going to use that as the base. Now, I bought this birdhouse from Dollar Tree, and I'm going to give it a good coat of sandstone, actually 2 coats of sandstone chalk paint by Waverly from Walmart, and I am going to paint it all the way around That way it kind of has that neutral vibe to it. And then we're going to rustic it up a little bit. So stay tuned. Once I get that all coated, then I'm going to take some of this truffle chalk paint, and I started painting the roof and then decided that was a little thick and a little too dark. And so I added some water to it and watered it down, made it more of a stain. And I'm going to stain the whole roof, the little edges, and then just up underneath the eaves with that truffle chalk paint. And then once I get that done, I'm going to add a little bit of that to the base and give it kind of that rustic look. Goes with the rest of my tablescape, as you'll see when we're all done. So we're just going to add a little bit of that to the base. And then we're going to go in with a little bit more of that sandstone, and we're going to add it to the roof, kind of give it that weathered look, just a little bit of dry brushing. And then we're going to open up that celery paint and chalk paint, and we are going to add a little bit of that to the roof. Again, just some more weathering to that birdhouse. And once we've got that on the roof, then we're going to go in with a little bit of this celery color, and we're going to add some kind of blurred stripes just to kind of give it a little bit more character. And you can't see it real well. That celery is not terribly darker than the sandstone, but when it's done, it just looks super cute. And then we're going to go back in and kind of rustic that up a little bit, and I'll dry brush a little bit of that celery to add to the weathering on the roof, and then go back in with a little bit of that truffle and kind of rustic up and weather the stripes there just a little bit. And to do this, I just added a little bit of water onto my brush, and then a little bit of paint and a little bit more water, and kind of tapped some off and just kind of gave it that weathery kind of look. So once we've gotten that all done, then we're going to set that aside to dry, and we're going to put our bird together. Now I just took the little bird and painted him with some white chalk paint, leaving his beak free that I'll go in and paint separately. So you'll see I kind of create a little semicircle around that beak, and I probably gave him 2 or 3 coats of the white chalk paint. And then once we've gotten that done, I'm going to add some green, go back with that celery to the wing, and then we'll use that same color on the beak. I know green isn't typically a beak color, but I thought it just matched really well with the wing. So we're gonna go in and do that, and we'll dry brush just a little bit of white on the wing that kind of gives it a feathery kind of appearance. And we're also going to go in with our paintbrush, and here's my handy dandy air dryer. I mean heat gun, guys. It's been a day, guys. It's been a day. And so I'm going to use my heat gun and kind of quicken that up. Now you want to be careful with the heat gun on this chipboard, because if you get it too hot, it does kind of warp a little bit. So I just wanted to dry that paint real quick so that I could move on with the project. And I'm going to take the end of my paintbrush and a little bit of that black chalk paint and add a little eyeball on to the bird. Nothing terribly big. And there I dry brushed on the wings. And now we're going to glue the little legs on. Now since I have 3 layers, I glued one of the legs on the far layer, and then the other leg just a little bit staggered on the close layer. That way they weren't right on top of each other. And then we're going to glue the little legs onto the base here, and that's how he'll sit on the centerpiece. Now the next part that we're going to work on is some pine cone flowers. Now I did a whole video on pine cones if you want to go check that out last year around Christmas time. And I did show cutting of pine cone flowers a little bit more in detail on that video. But we're going to also make a little wood round flower using the little egg cutouts that you can buy in packages from Dollar Tree. So I'm going to use 5 of those, and a tiny little wood round that you can also buy in a package from Dollar Tree. I actually haven't seen those in a while, so you may not be able to find them right now. But we're going to drill a hole in that little wood round and put in a skewer, and that's going to be our stem. And then I'm going to take some tape to put the little eggs on while I paint those, because that way then I'm not having to hold those little eggs and get paint all over my fingers. I'm a very messy painter, and I seem to be washing my hands a lot these days with all this painting. Anyway, so we're going to paint these. I believe this is Ballet Slipper Pink by Waverly. And then we are going to add a little yellow center onto our wood round and give it some truffle dots for the little center of the wood round. Now I'll go back in later and put in something else, and here it is. I took a piece of the pine cone center and cut it and stuck it in there. I just felt like with the eggs were a little bit lifted, and that just didn't make for a really good center, but the pine cone fit perfectly. So now I'm going to take some of that ballet slipper paint, and I'm going to paint my pine cone flowers. And then I had these mushrooms left over from fall last year, and I sanded down kind of the shiny part and gave it a truffle color. And then they have these tiny little mushrooms this year in the Easter section, and I painted some of those with a truffle colored base and a top and a sandstone base. And then I took some of that sandstone and watered it down and created some little dots on my mushrooms and gave it a more realistic appearance than the Dollar Tree mushroom looked like. And then we're going to take some of this reindeer moss and cover up that little piece of styrofoam that I'm holding my flowers in. And I'll also be placing some additional flowers, the ones you saw in the beginning. I'll pick some of those out. And then I'll put my mushrooms here in this little moss base. And then we're going to add some more of the reindeer moss onto this big wood round. Now, this wood round was cut from a huge pine tree we had in our front yard that died last year, and my husband cut me all these wood rounds. So if you're lucky enough to find a tree, you can get wood rounds for free. And we're just going to add in a little bit more floral from the Dollar Tree picks and a little bit more moss. And then I'm going to run through my house and shop some of my decor. And I pulled up a piece of driftwood, and I pulled up a piece of some, oh, what are they called? Kind of bowl filler stuff, I guess. It kind of looked like eggs and, wooden outdoor stuff. And we're just going to finish this up with a few pieces of that to give it a final look. And then I decided it needed one more thing. So I went back to those styrofoam bunnies, and I'm going to paint one of those styrofoam bunnies with some sandstone, a little bit of white, and a little bit of ballet slipper, and give it kind of a realistic-ish look, and an eyeball and some pink in the ears, and glue that on there, and this centerpiece will be complete. I think it turned out stinking adorable. I just love it so much, and I'm glad that it'll run not just Easter but into my spring decor. And I just love the way this sits on the table. And there's another wood piece that my husband cut from one of our trees to give the bird house a taller place to sit. And I just think this turned out so cute. And here it is. I gave the flowers a little bit of pink and added to those. And here's the whole tablescape, all the different pieces. And I just love the way my Easter table looks, and it kind of matches with my rustic decor of my barnwood there on the walls. And it just makes my heart happy. What was your favorite project today? Let me know in the comments below.
Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I really did enjoy our time together. Now, since you stuck around to the very end, I'm going to give you a hint on some of the things that you'll need for one of next week's projects. You'll need a tube sock of some sort. This is one of those diabetic socks from the Dollar Tree. You'll need some wire and some twine, but not very much, just whatever scraps you have, and then some kind of ribbon. But until then, make it a great day and happy Tuesday!